We in England created the consensus statement mainly because our research showed that children and young people aren't active enough. Only 47% of children are meeting the physical activity guidelines, and of these active children, only half of them say they enjoy being active, so there's a huge enjoyment gap in England. We also know there's deep-rooted inequalities in children's attitudes and behaviours towards sport and physical activity. So the work of the consensus statement is to help us think and do things differently in England. I think when I started this work 2 years ago, I googled physical literacy and over 200 definitions came up. And it's no wonder that our sector were confused and a little bit lost in what the philosophy of physical literacy meant and what it meant in terms of changing inactivity and inequality. So for us, we wanted to create a common language that we could talk about movement with health, with our own sector, sport and physical activity, with education, and create a shared understanding of what physical literacy meant and why it was so important as a driver in creating those positive movement experiences, not only for children and young people, but people across the life course. Okay, so in terms of our consensus statement, I'd say our biggest successes have been the consensus process we took. So we had Liverpool John Moores University who led the consensus process with 60 academics, practitioners and stakeholders. And it was the mixture of these partners who made it a success really, because we had the views of the academics who were so passionate about physical literacy, but it was also balanced with the perspectives and lived experiences of practitioners and stakeholders. And I think the blend of 60 gave a real richness of experiences, perspectives and areas of expertise, and it helped us to create a consensus statement that was created for the sector, by the sector. It would have been very easy for us at Sport England to sit in a room and create the consensus statement, but we really wanted this to be something the sector drives itself. So I think it started with a combination of those partners. I think secondly, in September last year, we published the statement and we got a social design innovation company in to design the graphics around the consensus statement, to work with partners to design the publication event. And again, it created this sense of shared ownership for the consensus statement that I think we learned from other countries needed to really be there for it to take root at scale. Some of the challenges I would say is the term physical literacy. So our expert panel contested it highly around, do we actually call it physical literacy or not? And for us, we landed on, yes, we're going to call it physical literacy. But I think sometimes that can be a barrier when I talk to health or I maybe talk to education, because they automatically think it's just about children and young people, or they think it's about literacy. So I think for us, we're learning to change our language. We're using the content of the consensus statement, but we're not always calling it physical literacy, to open some of those doors and open those conversations. And time, I think for some, they think it's going to be a light bulb moment and things are going to transform. But actually we know this is a slow burner and it's going to take time to shift those conversations, cultures and systems. And we're really comfortable with that at Sport England and we're prepared to be in it for the long haul. So hopefully that helps.